Today we're looking for a match for Unmatched and more.
Welcome to episode 281 of the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast. We're going to start off with a question from a fan who's looking for games similar to Unmatched, the Unmatched system from Restoration Games. We're going to follow that up by talking about the games we've been playing and some other cool gaming stuff we're involved in, including a trip to Brantford for an Asmodee 30th anniversary party. Then we're going to finish up with 3 reviews tonight. One that actually matches tonight's question, which is Marvel Dice Throne X-Men. And then 2 social deduction games I actually liked. Those are going to be Dawn and Curses and Covens.
Before that, we'd better let people know who we are. I'm Sean, your host, and with me is Deanna, who's spent way too much time working on the blog lately.
Hey to all our Bellhop boarders. I've been doing a bunch of behind-the-scenes work with our awesome webmaster, Aaron, and because I've been making lots of changes and potentially not spotting anything I've done wrong, I got a quick request for anyone who is poking around on the website. If you spot anything wonky, please send me a quick message and email Deanna at tabletopbellhop.com or DM us or something and let me know if you spot weird things.
And then we have the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
And for a while now, we should be back recording every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop. And we love it when people join us in the lobby, our chat room here on Twitch.
And yes, It is Thursday right now, not to confuse anyone. This should be our last off-date episode for a little while, at least.
Don't curse us by saying that. Okay, now on to some housekeeping. First, disclosure. Wherever you're consuming this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links. When you use one of our affiliate links, it costs you nothing extra and helps to support the show. Next up, you can find links to everything that we talk about in this episode in our show notes. And you can find those over at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 281. That's 281. And finally, I want to acknowledge that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions. Tonight's question comes from Darren Zabarek, who writes, I've been obsessed with the Unmatched board games, where each player battles out with a deck of cards on a board map. Do you know any similar experiences with other board games?
Thanks for the question, Darren. Okay, first, I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone, your questions fuel our content. If you've got a question, you can email questions@tabletopbellhop.com or head over to our website and click on Ask the Bellhop, or you can post something on our Discord or reach out on any of our social media accounts. We can be found pretty much everywhere as Tabletop Bellhop, one word.
First up, as a recommendation for Darren, as it's been on our tables, is Dice Throne from Roxley Games, along with some Marvel sets that are put out in collaboration with the Op.
Yeah, so it just happens we've been playing a lot of Marvel Dice Throne recently, specifically the new X-Men sets that just came out to retail. And right away, that's my number one recommendation for Darren, is check out Dice Throne. I think it's got the same kind of feel and vibe. And honestly, that's why we picked this question tonight, because I've been playing Dice Throne, and I think it's a near perfect fit. I was going through our questions, and I was like, oh, come on, Dice Throne. We got to review Dice Throne. We've been playing Dice Throne. Dice Throne's perfect. What else can I come up with, right? Here you have another game where each character, each player you're playing has their own deck of cards. And you're battling the other player who has their own deck of cards. But with that, you also have custom dice in this game and a Yahtzee-like rolling mechanic and unique player boards. So not only is each deck different, each set of dice is unique, and those boards all have all kinds of interesting different powers. Now, there is something missing, though. So maybe it's not a totally perfect fit, but for vibe and feel, I think it is. There is no board. There's no map you're battling on. There's no line of sight. There's no ranged attacks versus melee attacks. The combat is all abstracted. Now, a board, though, is something you do get with the cooperative Marvel Dice Thrones Missions expansion. Now, that's going to have all those cards and unique abilities and asymmetry that you have from Unmatched, as well as that board. But if you want a duel, you're going to stick to the normal game.
All right, well, our next recommendation is Sorcerer from Wise Wizard Games.
Sorcerer is a non-collectible card game where you combine a character deck, a lineage deck, and a domain deck to make up your play deck. So you do get some elements of deck constructing. Deck thing. So you do get some elements of deck construction, but it's nothing close to the level of a TCG or an LCG. The meat of the game is you're summoning minions and battling on 3 different battlefields, and you win by controlling 2 of the 3 battlefields at the end of a round. While it doesn't have the board interaction of Unmatched, I feel like the customization options when building the deck, which can be pretty interesting, they kind of make up for it.
Yeah, I dig this game. We got really into this game when it came out. It's still being supported. They're still putting out new content. Similar to the game we just mentioned, they also just released a cooperative version where you can each make your character to fight. I think it's like Endbringer or something like that. This one's a neat one from Wise Wizard Games. I definitely think it's a good recommendation.
Now, I'm going to suggest one that I think in some ways is closer than both of those other ones to what Unmatched is, because the board is a bigger part of the game, and you're not dealing with dice, it's just your decks. And that's Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Encounters. Here you aren't just choosing one character, you are making a team of 3, each with its own preset deck. You use these to move, to attack, and with great-looking character standees in a hex-based arena, you're trying to KO your opponents while also trying to score controlling hexes.
Now, Disney Sorcerer's Arena is dead now. It's going out of print. But there are a good variety of characters available between the base game and all the expansions packs that they did release. So I'm thinking being able to have Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean and Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas, and then classic Mickey from The Sorcerer's Apprentice team up versus Moana and Stitch and Mulan, like that really to me gives the flavor of the wild pairings that you can make an Unmatched.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic recommendation. Again, it really does kind of feel like Unmatched. You do have a board. In this case, the board's abstract, just a bunch of hexes. But definitely that each character having their own deck and playing unique, it definitely comes out in Sorcerer's Arena. And I am so bummed this game did not stick around. It is fantastic. This was something I was hoping was going to have legs and just keep going. Check out our reviews of it. I still think it's worth picking up. There are still so many different combinations of characters and ways to play, and every expansion added neat little new rules to it. Despite being dead, I think the game's well worth still picking up. It's still in print. I don't know if it's still in print, but it's still available.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, in Summoner Wars from Plaid Hat Games, you control an entire army and not just a character.
So Summoner Wars to me feels like a miniature war game, in particular, like a Warhammer Fantasy Battle or a Rune Wars, right? Fantasy armies clashing against each other with battle lines across 2 sides of a battlefield. And in this case, each unit, though, is represented by a card that fits onto the grid horizontally. So it kind of even looks like a unit of troops. Now, your deck is your army, and this is one of those games where your army cards not only are the cards you're going to play, but it's also what you use to pay for those armies. And you win the game by taking out the opponent's summoner. So it's got that kind of chess-like feel as you're maneuvering units around on the grid and attacking and putting up walls. And this is another one that really reminds me of Unmatched due to the asymmetry. Each army plays completely differently from each other army. Of course, elves are better at ranged attacks, and dwarves can build all kinds of fortifications and siege weapons, and you get that real variety between them. Now, something else that's fairly new to the game that wasn't there when I first got into it is they have now included the option of customizing your decks. So yes, you can just play with the decks. You just buy it. You go out and buy an orc deck and fight your orc deck against the elf deck Deanna just bought. But there are now ways to customize your decks to actually tailor them to the type of play you like. So in a way, that's a step above what you can do in Unmatched.
Well, next up, we have an over-the-top anime battle-inspired game from Brother Ming Games called React, The Arts of War.
So we got to do a demo of this one at Gamma Expo last February, and we were super impressed by the asymmetry of the characters. Like, all of the characters in this game are artists of some kind. And not only does each character have their own deck of cards, they also have all kinds of unique bits. So, for example, there's a DJ who has a set of speakers, and those speakers actually move around the board, and he has 2 turntables, and they play LPs on them to activate abilities. And then there's a painter character that has a brush that lets her summon ink sprites. And the way you skirmish against each other and the extreme asymmetry, this actually seems like it's a perfect fit for a fan of Unmatched.
And this one just looks so cool, and very asymmetric characters. Here you do have the board going on, and if I remember when we got the demo, the way the speakers worked is they would attack if you could get them to cross each other. The person would take like extra damage because they were where the two speakers hit, and they'd have maximum damage from maximum sound, which I just thought was really neat. And then the LPs, like you would have to switch them up. So you'd like put a CD that's on cue, and then the one would end and it would switch, and you'd have to queue up another one, and that's how you controlled your character. Just lots of fascinating stuff from that. And the rep from Brother Ming, and I don't know if it was one of the brothers, was so excited about this game, and I hope it's been doing well for them.
All right, well, so Darren, are you into fighting video games like Guilty Gear or Street Fighter? If yes, you might want to check out BattleCon from Level 99 Games. Now, BattleCon recreates the action and tactics of a 2D fighter using card decks and a simple board that shows the relative position of the combatants. Each character has their own unique deck with its own combination of abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Recent releases have unleashed a number of solo fighters, so this is a great recommendation if you don't always have an opponent around.
Yeah, this is one we actually bought off a local gamer who we haven't seen in quite some while. Weird. And I was shocked by how well it gave you that feel of playing a 2D fighter and having to combo your cards to like from this attack to this attack to do this to leap back. And it really did give that feel of playing one of those 2D fighters when you're skilled, where it's not just mashing the buttons, where it really is a test of skill between two people battling characters.
Our last recommendation is more of an asymmetrical abstract strategy chess-like wargame, and that's Neuroshima Hex from Portal Games.
So here, instead of a deck of cards, you're playing an army again, kind of like Summoner Wars, but instead of cards, they're hex-shaped units, hex-based counters that are played onto a hex map. You're going to put them onto the hex grid and activate them as they're played, with the goal being to defeat the enemy's HQ, or have someone run out of tiles and have the most damage left on your headquarters before the end of the game. This one is super strategic and tactical. Like Sean's not right. This is chess-like. This is if you like games where it's a duel of wits and you have to outplay your opponent, and it's not dice-based or hoping you draw the right card or hoping you do the right thing, that's much more open information. I think this is going to be a great option. Note there is randomness because you don't have all your hexes available. You're going to get like a hand of hexes to be able to play from. This one's been around for a while. There are lots of versions and expansions. Neuroshima Hex 3.0 is the most current and is still in print and available. I made sure to check that before we went live today. What's interesting to know is the main thing that has changed between editions is the artwork. And all of the 1.0 armies are actually compatible with 3.0. So any set you have should work together.
All right. Well, as always, let's wrap up our recommendations with a couple of honorable mentions. Now, these games are almost always games we haven't personally tried ourselves, but we've seen other people strongly recommend to fans of games like Unmatched. In this case, it's Exceeds and Wildlands.
So the Exceed fighting system, which is from Level 99 Games, it was a follow-up to BattleCon, which we already recommended. And like BattleCon, this is another game that is attempting to recreate the feel of a digital hand-to-hand fighting game. We haven't played it, but we've noticed tons of people recommending it for fans of Unmatched.
All right, Wildlands is one that's been on my wish list for a while. Actually, this is one I really want to try out because it's designed by Martin Wallace, who's, Martin Wallace of Brass fame. He's generally known for his heavy Euros. And it's put out by Osprey, the game company most known for historic war games. So it's an odd pedigree for a dueling, card-driven, miniature-heavy game. Factions are each represented by their own card deck, and they battle it out over a post-apocalyptic fantasy landscape. To me, this actually looks the most like Unmatched. Like if I look at pictures of them, I would have thought it was a game of Unmatched. I got to say, I'm really curious about this one. And even more so, they did a Judge Dredd retheme of this. And I am a huge Dredd head, so I'm actually even more curious about the Judge Dredd version.
I'm actually interested about Exceed because I don't know whether it really is a great Unmatched game, but its followers certainly think so, and they are certainly excited about that game.
Well, there you go, Darren, and everyone else listening. Now you have a list of games to check out for when you want to play something similar to Unmatched.
Now, I have to admit, when I first got this question, I couldn't think of much at all. I was like, well, yeah, the Marvel Dice Throne, that's just like it. It's exactly like it. It's so similar. And I'm like, okay, what else do we have? And I'm thinking about, I'm like, oh, Disney Sorcerer's Arena. That's a good one. All right, well, we can't have an episode where we only recommend 3 games. We got to find like at least 5, don't we? And then the more Deanna and I were talking about it and looking into it and looking at our own collection, it ends up card-driven asymmetry in battle games is more common than I expected. Like, I actually know I found a few games that I now want to dig into further to see what they're all about once I was looking up these mechanics and other recommendations. And I want to know what makes them stand out for the other ones.
Well, how about you? What games would you recommend Darren check out? What scratched that unmatched itch for you? Even better, was there a game you actually enjoyed more than Unmatched? We want to hear about it.
Yeah, send off an email to mo@tabletopbellhop.com, leave a comment or reply or wherever you happen to find this discussion, or post on our Discord server, which you can find at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing and other cool gaming stuff going on.
So first off, I want to announce a new partnership. As of this past week, after quite a few meetings, the Tabletop Bellhop team will be partnering with Hidden Trail Experiences to bring some new tabletop gaming events to the Windsor area.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. The first thing we've got lined up is going to be a board game bring and buy swap meet, which is going to be happening Sunday, October 5th. And this will be a chance for local gamers to get rid of games they're no longer playing and maybe pick up some new favorites.
Local gamers have been asking for us to put on something like this for a while now, and now we finally have.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell some of the people at our Walkerville event to get ready for this one, because this is something we get asked a lot by the local gamers. Now, we're also hammering out the details on a Tuesday designer night, a place where game designers can get together and people who are interested in playtesting games can kind of hang out, chat, and work on making games better, as well as a weekend board gaming afternoon. Both of those will be coming up in October.
And we promise to tell you all about that maybe next week once we finalized everything.
Now, as for our regular events, our next Brews and Board Games night at the Walkerville Brewery is on the 25th of this month, and our October event is scheduled for the 16th, both Thursdays.
Now, another cool gaming event that you were both invited to was a shindig for Asmodee's big anniversary.
So yeah, we were honored to be invited to an Asmodee 30th anniversary party, which was hosted at their new Ontario office in Brantford, Ontario. Deanna and I drove up there yesterday, got to see them, cut the ribbon at the front. They got an award from the mayor's office. We enjoyed some food and drink and got to mingle with a bunch of the Asmodee staff and some other Canadian content creators.
So Mo and I are standing around looking at all the games displayed on the wall, and a few things stuck out. Number one, Asmodee Canada is a distributor for way more companies than I previously realized.
Oh.
It's kind of amusing because just the day previous, we had got a box from Asmodee. And Mo and I are like, we haven't requested any games from Asmodee. What the heck could be in this box? And we open it up and it's Hedge Mage from Floodgate Games, which we had asked for. But we're like, oh, I guess Asmodee is the distributor for Floodgate. I had no idea. So we're looking around their office, and yeah, it was that times 10. We just kept going, that company? Also that one?
Yeah, the one that shocked me, I'm like, oh, you have Drop It. You distribute Cosmos? And they're like, yeah, we distribute Cosmos in Canada. And they're like, and then they're like Mighty Boards, Awakened Realms, like the big, like they had ISS Vanguard there on display. And like, that's a huge, big box. Capstone Games. And like part of that was having me question, I'm like, should we be working with these publishers directly as we have been? Or should we be reaching out to Asmodee, especially with everything going on between the Canadian and US border? I was glad to see a bunch of these U.S. companies we work with being supported by Asmodee Canada, with them warehousing it right in Canada. So that, to me, seemed like a great opportunity for us.
And I mean, we're content creators, so your mileage may vary, but that also means readily available for other folk in Canada, which, that's good. Anyway, another thing that stuck out, so we're looking at these games on the wall, and we spotted a shelf of games labeled Access Plus. And these are all games that have been redeveloped specifically to adapt them to make them more playable for folks with cognitive impairment. And we had a super fascinating conversation with, he didn't introduce himself, but I'm pretty sure that was the CEO of Asmodee Canada. So he was talking about how they work with universities to do research. So there's scientific backing to the claims that he's making for these games, and they redesigned them a bit. It's not like they just took Dixit and put a different box art and label on it, right? So, and he was talking about how it's more of a passion project, like in line with their green initiatives, than a money-making thing, because it's so niche, and they actually sell them to the healthcare worker market and stuff. So I just thought it was fascinating. I wasn't aware of the Access line until we spotted them on the wall. And given that we were just talking about games for seniors and aging parents last episode, there was just this synchronicity. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and that's the gentleman is Jason Pickford, who actually is the CEO and country manager for Asmodee Canada. Came over, saw us looking, and he actually brought someone else over too, and was like, "Oh, are you curious about these?" And I'm like, we just talked about this last episode. I wish I'd known these existed, because I would have totally called them out. And it's interesting because they don't actually sell those direct to the public. They're all sold to institutions. They're sold to hospitals, and they're sold to healthcare workers and psychologists and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of fascinating. And we mentioned to him that, maybe there would be some desire from the public for these.
Are they not available to the public? I missed that part.
Yeah, he said they are not. They are not currently sold to the public. They are, what would you call it, for medical professionals. Now, while there, we did get a bit of gaming in. Mostly it was all, schmoozing and walking around and talking to people, and lots of people saying, what do you think of our new offices? I'm like, hey, they're nice. They're shiny offices. They look pretty. But we did get a little bit of gaming done. First off, I walked in on Deanna getting a demo of Ink. This is one from Final Score Games, another company I did not know Asmodee Canada distributed.
I got sick of standing around awkwardly in a room full of strangers, so of course I made a beeline back to the gaming room that they had showed us on the office tour. And I was just going to take a look at all the games on the shelf, but some kind Asmodee employee named Kevin, and I'm not actually sure what his job is, he started chatting with me, and he ended up pulling Ink off the shelf and walked me through a quick demo. So that was pretty cool, because that's a game that was not on my radar. But I have to say, after his overview, I'm totally intrigued. It's you're drafting tiles, building a tableau, and you're trying to spend all your ink bottles. And you have 12 ink bottles that are within a certain color palette, and then 12 more that you can play as sort of wild cards. And the first person to get all 24 of their ink placed is the winner. And then there's, things beyond that for bonus scoring and stuff. But there was some neat stuff going on. And apparently it's on Board Game Arena, because the fellow that was showing it to me said he'd only ever played it on Board Game Arena. He hadn't played the physical copy yet, so I got to go check it out. But I have to say, with the physical copy, they have these tiny ink bottle markers for the player pieces, and they're translucent, and they're just super cute. So yeah, that was Ink.
I have to say it's on Board Game Arena, but having seen pictures of the ink pots, I'm like, why would you want to play this digitally? Those are awesome. Those are like so touchable.
No, I agree. I walked in and I was like, what are you learning? That looks fascinating. Those look really cool. Later during the event, after some more food came out and people were snacking and everything, the content creators all kind of gathered in the game room. I think all of us were kind of feeling a little out of place, because like these were corporate folks that were down from Quebec to Chris in a new office, and everyone's wearing suits. And I'm like, I didn't feel that bad. I at least had a colored shirt on. So we all kind of were in the back room looking at their game collection on the wall of stuff that is in there for them to play, like during their breaks and downtime, which is kind of cool. And one of the content creators grabbed Up or Down off the shelf and taught it. Now this is one that's from Capstone Games, and who localized it from the original German version, which was from Abacus Spiel. And we actually, I don't know if we talked about it in our Gamma recap episode, because that was a long time ago, but we did get to see the game at Gamma Expo, a prototype of it, where the rep from Capstone was showing how they totally redone the art. And I got to say, this game does look beautiful. Now, this is just an abstract card game that happens to have a theme of elevators, which will make sense in a minute. And it reminds me of the game, because you're doing a thing where you're trying to play cards in numeric order going up or down. And Racco, because you're trying to place cards into the proper sequence and get your cards in order, with a little touch of Bonanza. And that's just because there's this whole thing where you have 3 elevators you can have. And if you can't play a card, you basically have to get rid of one of your elevators. It really felt like me when you had to sell a bean field and you didn't want to. So that may not apply for anyone else, but to me, that just gave me I kept wanting to call my elevators my fields. And when I did close my elevator, I said I'd sell this one, because just in my head, that was Bonanza. So you got a deck of cards, they're numbered 1 to whatever. I think it was 96 in our game. You get a hand of 3 cards. Then you're going to put out 1 card per player out on the table. And they're put out so they're in a circle in numeric order. The rest of the deck is split, so half of it's face up, half face down. Now, you're going to take a card from your hand when it's your turn. You're going to slide it into its spot between 2 numbers. And then you have a choice to take either of those 2 cards, the one to the left or the right, which would be 1 higher or 1 lower. Not like 1 in number, but like higher or lower. That card you draft goes in your tableau where you're building those 3 elevators. But then after you have the first card in your elevator, any one you add, you have to decide if that elevator is going up or it's going down. And once you set that, all the cards that are stacked on there have to continue going down, descending, or ascending. You're doing all this to try to build up those elevators so that you have sets where you are going to, at the end, score points based on all your shutdown elevators are just worth 1 point per card. But then you're going to look at your completed elevators and you're going to multiply the number of cards in the set with the number of cards you have of the same color that's the color you had the most of. And I hate the wording on that, but I couldn't think of a more succinct way to play it. If you see it in front of you, it makes perfect sense, right? You got 4 cards and 4 are red and 1's yellow. You're going to do 4 times 3, and you're hopefully have bigger sets than that. It's a nice, simple to learn, quick to play, surprisingly strategic and tactical. Like I don't know how many times I tried to plan ahead for my turn and the person just before me would take the card I wanted, or how many times I was absolutely stuck because the 3 cards in my hand led to things I did not want. I got to say, we all had a good time. There were 6 of us playing, a 7th who taught the game, and everyone was kind of laughing and having a good time.
I could say the same about you because you were directly before me and kept taking my card every turn. Yeah, I feel it's like the game, but with extra strategy bits and no co-op. So for me, better. Yeah, I had a good feel for this one from our demo that we got back at Gamma Expo. But after having actually played it, I am sold. We definitely need a copy of this.
Yeah, I think this would go over really well at our public play game nights. Plus, so simple to teach. Like well, I should say the math is easy, but how many times during that one game did we have stuff not placed in the right order where someone go play a card and you're like, oh, wait, that's in the wrong spot. Basic math can be hard.
Number order? What? Huh? I mean, it would be good for kids that are practicing with that sort of thing, too. So
it is true. Now, as for other games played, not at special events, cities 3 hours away from us, we played a bunch of Marvel Dice Throne with the new X-Men sets. I broke those out, tried out all 8 of the different heroes. I didn't try all 8 of the different heroes, but we tried all 8 of the new heroes. And we already recommended this one earlier for fans of Unmatched, and we're going to be reviewing it a bit. So I don't want to say too much here. I will just say that I dig Dice Throne. I enjoyed the last Marvel set. To me, this is more of the same. And honestly, I think a little better. I found, I don't know, it felt a little tighter than the last set. It might be just that I like the X-Men, and I really feel they kind of nailed the X-Men. The only problem I have with this is they got rid of the awesome trays. Now, if you check out our Marvel Dice Throne review, where I do the 4-character box set, one of the things that we gave shining praise for were these trays that held the character components, and how you could just like toss them on a table and people come up and just pick them. And then you open them and you're basically ready to go. All your components are sorted. There's no baggies. You just, boom, you're good. Shuffle your deck. Let's go. That's gone. Now it's just like a big box insert like any other board game, and you got to sort the stuff. I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah, you pretty much said some of my thoughts there, because I did like this a bit more, and I thought it might just be because I'm more attached to the X-Men with my happy 90s X-Men comic book collection than I am to other characters. So, or maybe it's actually better, more interesting powers, but no, I'm not sure.
I think one of the big differences for me was I wasn't learning Dice Throne. I was learning the character I was playing, not Dice Throne. And that made it an easier to sit down and more comfortable, warm embrace of a feeling, as it were, just because you didn't have to worry about the game. You just had to worry about what's new in front of me. All right, well, that's all for the games that we've been playing. What about you? What hit your table recently? Leave a comment, send an email, or post in the What You've Been Playing section of our Discord. Cards are getting played, dice are getting chucked, and the heroes are battling each other again for some reason in Marvel Dice Throne X-Men.
So after a very successful Kickstarter, the Op, in collaboration with Roxley Games, brings 8 iconic X-Men to the Dice Throne universe. For retail, the team was split into 2 4-hero boxes, and we're here to talk about both of those.
So one box includes Iceman, Psylocke, Storm, and Wolverine, and the other box comes with Cyclops, Gambit, Rogue, and Jean Grey. You get a set of dice, a deck of cards, a health tracker dial, and a combat point tracker dial, and unique counters for each character. And you will find the same rulebook in each box, plus one big plastic tray, which is meant to be used to organize all of these components. You also get a standee for each character, but no bases. And the standees are meant to be used in a not at all included in this box cooperative expansion.
Now, these trays are the most disappointing part of these new Dice Throne sets. One of our favorite things about the previous Marvel sets was the deluxe individual trays for each hero. They were fantastic for people letting people pick a hero and almost instantaneously set up and tear down of the game. We think it's a big loss these were removed from the retail version of X-Men Dice Throne.
Now, besides the removal of the dice trays, deluxe trays, sorry, not dice trays, one of their dice trays too, the component quality here is great. Cards are good quality. I've always never had a complaint with any of the Dice Throne cards. I love the colorful, unique dice in Dice Throne. I guess the style are swirl dice. The boards are nice and thick. The artwork is very striking. Just don't expect the classic 90s X-Men cartoon look out of this one. This is based on more modern comic book series. Now, with our friends and family, I will admit everyone thought someone didn't look right, but overall it's a cohesive look. Just might not be the X-Men you quite expect. The rulebook's good, though I still find it really weird that they chose a different Marvel character as the example. They used Black Panther again, which is the same as the other one. They put new art on the cover, but inside's Black Panther again. And the rules for Dice Throne in general have been around for a long time. They've been kind of distilled. I still find there's some ambiguity in regards to defense rolls, but if you go online, everyone's figured those out a long time ago. And after a few, quick Google searches, we had it figured out yet again. Basically, if only normal damage is defendable, that's pretty much the final version on it.
Gameplay in Marvel Dice Throne X-Men is the same as it's always been in all of the Dice Throne games. You pick a hero, shuffle your deck, draw 4 cards, give yourself 50 health and 2 combat points or CP, and go. At the start of your turn, you gain income of 1 CP and draw a card, except if you're the start player, then you don't draw a card.
Cards are broken into 3 types. Main phase cards, which are played during either main phase, before or after your offensive roll phase. Then these either upgrade the abilities on your player board or do a thing and are discarded. Instant action cards can be played pretty much anytime, and roll phase cards that modify dice during either player's roll phase. Now, each card has a cost in combat points, and during your main phase, you can sell cards for 1 CP each by discarding them.
Now, the offensive roll phase is where the dice come in and you roll Yahtzee style. You get 1 roll and you can re-roll any number of dice up to 2 times. And you're trying to match patterns on your boards to activate abilities. Now, every ability is very unique in this game. There is no duplication whatsoever, at least between any of the characters we've seen. And each hero's board features different sets of abilities. Like some will have more than 1 defense and so on. Now, they do tend to have similar dice patterns, though. Like you'll be looking for small straights and large straights and double pairs or multiple 6s and so on. Now, every character also has an ultimate ability that you get on a full roll of 6s.
So it's still extra interesting Yahtzee. If you're hitting your opponent for damage, and the damage is defendable, you get a defense roll. Every hero has at least 1 of these. You roll the indicated set of dice and apply the results. Now note, for many heroes, this isn't just blocking the damage. Finally, at the end of your turn, you're going to have to discard down to 6 cards or less, and you get 1 CP for each discarded card.
Now, as for game flow, that's pretty much it. Play cards, roll, defend, play more cards, rinse and repeat until someone is knocked to 0 health. The actual meat here comes from the cards and hero abilities and what they do. In Marvel Dice Throne X-Men, you will be doing all kinds of things with cards and dice. Wolverine will rage up and do massive damage. Storm will call on lightning power to enhance her basic abilities. Cyclops will come up with battle plans and call out specific targets, making them more vulnerable, while Gambit has a whole system for charging up ace cards in all 4 suits, and more.
Yeah, the variety of abilities, and I would almost call them like mini games included. Like Gambit's got its own special cards. Loki was similar with his illusion cards, is extremely impressive. What we just described, though, is a standard 2-player, 2-hero game. Rules are also included for 3 and 4-player free for alls and a 4-player team game. Now, with more than 2 players, there is one extra phase called targeting that helps make it so you can't just gang up on a single player. Now, some characters like Jean Grey and Cyclops in particular in these sets are particularly suited to team play as they have many abilities that help allies. Now, if you do pick up both sets or do have other Dice Throne sets, and speaking of which, I don't know if we mentioned it, but all of these characters are compatible with every other Dice Throne thing that's ever been published. You don't have to just stick with Marvel. If you do have more than just 4 characters, there are rules online for playing with up to 6 players, but those aren't actually included in the box.
What blows me away about Dice Throne in general, and it does remain true with this set, is that the characters are wildly asymmetric, yet the game is so incredibly balanced, with our battles usually ending up very close. Like, I know in the last game, we had 3 1 versus 1 battles going on simultaneously, and all of them ended within like a 5-point spread.
Yeah.
And there's that feeling, oh my God, I just managed to take you out. And if I hadn't, you would have so had me next turn. Like, I kind of love that.
Yeah, now it is interesting that during 1v1 play, and depending on your opponent, some characters have cards that are essentially just good for combat points. As for instance, you might not ever want to move a status effect if it's just you and one other person, so you can sell those cards immediately for extra CP.
Which, with how tight CP is, that's not really a bad thing. I don't really mind that in this game you might have a deck where certain cards aren't effective against your opponent. At least you get something for them, right? It's not like you need a mulligan in Magic. Really, the absolute best version about Dice Throne, and I'm going to assume all versions, though we've only tried the Marvel sets ourselves, everyone feels different. Like, every character has its own little learning curve and require different strategies and tactics to be able to play well. Like, some of these are easier to learn than others, and they actually rank each character in the game. For these, in this case, the X-Men set with Iceman, Psylocke, Storm, and Wolverine are actually pack easier to learn heroes than the other set, with Wolverine being the easiest to learn character out of the whole thing, giving it a difficulty of 2. Now, the other set, the set with Cyclops, Gambit, Rogue, and Jean Grey, the lowest is a 3, but Gambit and Jean are actually a 6. And I will admit, they're pretty complicated to play. There's some funky things going on with Jean switching to the Phoenix every other turn and Gambit having to charge up his cards. So I will say, if you're new to the game, you might want to start with that first set over the 2.
Yeah, I love that each box set offers a different spread of difficulty ratings and that you have some easier pairings to choose from for beginners. Like, even with those rank 3 heroes, they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first play was with Iceman, and it was wildly different than any other character I'd played in Dice Throne. He even has a whole other card that's just exclusive to him, which is his freezer, where you can store tokens in order to gain enough to buy glides, which amazingly double his attack round. Now, while the mechanics turned out to actually be pretty straightforward, there were a lot of timing clarifications, and that made it feel really complex until you got it playing. And once you were playing, it was like, oh, well, now I know why they said that. And oh, I know why they said that. And it's Dice Throne. But Iceman in particular was one that felt a lot more complex until you started seeing it happen.
Yeah, I almost don't want to tell newer players or someone playing a character for the first time to flip over the rule clarifications, because they're rule clarifications for edge cases that probably aren't going to come up anyway. And I think they just kind of overwhelm everyone, like, oh my gosh, I got to worry about all this stuff. And I'm like, I think you're better off probably don't even look at that side. Play the character once. Now take a look at it. Make sure you didn't mess anything up. Really, I don't have a lot more to say about this set. Like, we have reviewed Marvel Dice Throne before, the set that Scarlet Witch, Thor, Loki, and Spider-Man. You can check that out if you really want to hear how much we love this game and what we love about it. This is just more of the same. New heroes, new strategies to explore, new combinations. The system's been around for a while, and honestly, I find it a very solid, elegant system for dueling style battles, 1v1 or team-based. I love the combination of dice and cards, and of course, the asymmetry. You know I love asymmetry. This is like, it just takes it to a different level than almost anything else. Like this isn't one power difference. Everyone's got a unique deck. Everyone's got unique abilities. You got unique cards. You got freezers and Dark Phoenix overlays you put on your board and all these other funky things.
Indeed. It's in the way that each character is unique that really makes this game sing, and makes me want to try some of those other non-Marvel Dice Throne content to see how those differ as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Each character is so unique. I just want to play with them, just play around to discover what's going on. And then after I play a character, I immediately want to play it for a second time because you don't see enough of the deck with just one play. And then I need to play it a third time because I'm now starting to get how to play that character. And then I want to go check out all the rest of them because it's just this unique discovery aspect because they are so incredibly different.
And another thing we haven't mentioned is who you're playing against matters a lot too. Like, it's not just learning your own character. You also want to learn your opponents, and what might work with your character in one game may not work at all against a different opponent. Now, my only real complaint about this set, and we mentioned earlier, is the packaging. Like, I really do miss the individual hero trays that were in the last Marvel set. Like, they were so great. We host public play events here in Windsor, and when I bring this game out, I just dump them out on the table, and they just look great. You can see the character, the way it's displayed, and you can just store them all together. Now I got to bring out 2 boxes. I got to hand players 3 baggies per character. I got to find the right boards to give them to people. Like, the old system was so great for setup and takedown. I honestly expect my old Marvel set is going to get more play than this new one because of that.
Yeah, I lack words for how sad I am that they just don't have those cool boxes, and not just for public play. It's just it's the quickness and the easiness of the takedown. Like last time when we were putting this game away, I was really missing those character packs. And when we sit down and just toss them out all on the table and then fight over who's going to play who, like I just want that. I want a deck box for my Marvel Dice Throne character.
So if you already enjoy Dice Throne, specifically if you played the other Marvel Dice Throne sets, and you didn't back the Kickstarter for these X-Men sets, I do recommend picking them up. I had a lot of fun with these new characters, and I really feel they nailed not just the powers, but the personality of the X-Men in this set. And honestly, this set felt tighter to me than the last set. Like, it just felt more bang on. Yes, I feel like I'm playing Storm. Yes, it seems like Iceman, especially the ice bridges, letting him combo off powers. That was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I had a hard, we talked about this before. I had a hard time deciding if it's really that the game is tighter and better in some way, or if it's just that I'm more attached to these characters, so I'm more excited to be playing the X-Men. I don't know, but either way, it's good.
Now, if you haven't played Dice Throne, I think the Iceman, Psylocke, Storm, and Wolverine set will be a great intro to the game, as heroes in there are easier to learn than the other boxed set. There's also the other Marvel Dice Throne sets released back in 2022 that are still available. That's where we learned the game and fell in love with it. This is the kind of game that appeals to players who like TCGs but are sick of the grind of keeping up with new sets and chasing rare cards.
There's something delightful of sitting down with the new set of Marvel Dice Throne, and it's like getting back on your bicycle. It's comforting because you can very quickly play this, but it's still totally unique.
And just as we said in our last review, if you aren't into 2-player dueling games, you don't like games with high randomness, Dice Throne may not be for you. Though I will say, despite being both dice and card driven, I never found the game to feel too random. But either way, this isn't a highly strategic game where you have all kinds of information and you're going to outthink your opponent, and experienced players are always going to destroy a novice. There's enough randomness here that it's more thematic than strategic at times, and I think that's a good thing. So yeah, overall, we dig it. It's another great Dice Throne set from the op. What I really want to do is try the cooperative version. I've never really understood the fact that all of the Dice Throne sets are about heroes battling each other, and I've yet to get a good explanation of why. At least with the X-Men, you can be like, they're in the danger room, and you're like, okay, at least there's a canon reason they could be fighting each other. I just want to use these mechanics to team up and take out a villain. So you do get that in the Marvel Dice Throne Missions expansion, which actually came out as part of the same Kickstarter as these X-Men sets did. But unfortunately, we don't have that one to talk about at this point.
Yeah, I'd be super curious to check that out. All right, we want to hear from you guys. Are you a Dice Throne fan? What have been your favorite characters so far? And they don't have to be Marvel ones. I really want to know what other sets we should be checking out.
Let us know in the comments section wherever you found this review, on social media, or start up a conversation on our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com.
Now, one thing that always sticks out about superheroes is their costume. That was something we were debating about in the art in this particular game and the way some of the characters look. Well, level up your own costume with some Tabletop Bellhop merch. Pick up a hat, hoodie, or t-shirt. We offer free shipping if you place an order worth $50 US or more.
Work together to build a village, or forget everyone else and just try to rake in some cash for yourself. That's the choice you get to make in Dawn, the second game in the 4-part Darkness saga.
So that saga was created by Green Meadow Games and designer Talo Hayward, which started with Darkness. Now, before we get too far, I do want to thank Green Meadow for sending us a copy of Dawn and a playmat for it, which is pretty cool. Dawn is a 2 to 5 player hidden role game where players will never get assigned a role they don't want and can pretty much freely choose their side during play. Will the team of allies successfully build and defend their new village, or will a single player steal the victory through betrayal and bluffing?
Now, physically, Dawn comes in a small drawer-style box that contains 2 decks of cards, a large set of standard-size cards, and then a smaller deck of square cards. There's also a tiny but thick rulebook, a first-player marker, and 5 sealed secret envelopes. The rules are a bit hard to read because of the size, but they are otherwise very clear and easy to understand.
The component quality here is odd.
Yeah.
The card quality is unique. It feels like the cards are unfinished, and due to this, they tend to stick together quite badly. They aren't easy to shuffle and just feel kind of odd in your hands. That said, they do seem to be getting better the more we use them, and we haven't seen any damage. Iconography, artwork, and everything else is solid and functional.
So Dawn is unique in the world of hidden trader, bluffing, and social deduction games, as you basically get to decide what team you're on. Not just like at the beginning of the game or the end of the game, but you can change sides and adapt while you are playing. Now, you can either be an ally working to do your best to build the village with everyone else, collecting points for completing houses and thwarting threats and aiding in the construction of 4 great buildings. Or you can choose to be a scoundrel, hoarding as much wealth as you can and making sure the allies don't hit their point total they need. What happens is more than one person is a scoundrel. Well, then it's whoever hoarded the most wealth that wins the game.
Now, all of this is played out over 6 rounds, where every player will get a hand of cards made up of 4 suits. You get red attack cards, green health cards, blue spy cards, and yellow gold cards, which are wild. Each card also has a number of positive or negative treasure symbols. Your hand limit is 9 cards, but then each wound you have takes up a spot, and everyone starts off with 2 wounds.
Now, at the start of the first of 5 rounds, a row of cards is laid out. These will be a mix of houses and threats, each of which has a cost listed on it. The houses cost treasure, while the threats require specific suits of cards to be played on them. In addition to this, there are 4 great building cards laid out above. These are high-scoring buildings which require specific cards to be played on them, but that also offer scoundrels a chance to secretly counter these cards with cards from an opposing suit.
Now, the first choice every player has each round is which card from their newly filled hand do they place in their storehouse under their character representation card. This is a face-down stack that players can use to swap in and out of during their turn. But it serves another, perhaps more important purpose, because these cards are what determine if you're a scoundrel or an ally at the end of the game. Once it's revealed at the end, if you have 7 or more treasures stored on your storehouse, you're a scoundrel. But if you have 6 or less, you're an ally.
So each turn, players can play cards from their hand face down onto cards on the table. And players tend to play out their entire hand, though you can keep cards between rounds if you want to. However, if you want to complete a house, you're going to put down cards with lots of treasure symbols. And to prevent a threat, you place down cards of the appropriate suit. And then each great building lists which type of cards you can place there and what their effects will be. Of course, if you're secretly a scoundrel or a potential scoundrel, you're going to place the wrong suit or negative treasure cards down, which is why that face down part matters.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of playing a card face down on the table, you can also reveal it and use its ability. Discard 3 green health cards to heal a wound from any player. Play a red attack card to look at 2 random cards in any face-down pile and optionally remove one from the game, and play a blue spy card to peek at any threat on the board.
Now, once a player has played all the cards they want to, it just moves to the next player who does the same. Once all players have taken a turn, there's this reveal phase. So for each of the square cards in the row, you're going to shuffle the cards played there and then reveal them to hide who played what. If there's enough treasures to build a house, it's flipped over, showing how many points that house is worth. If there aren't enough treasures, though, the house is discarded without anyone knowing what it was worth. If there are enough cards of the right suit to thwart a threat, it's discarded without looking at it. But if there aren't, you're going to reveal that threat and take whatever penalty is shown.
After resolving the entire square card row, you're going to move on to the next round with everyone getting a full hand of cards, storing one more card in their storehouse, and then players playing out their cards. The final round of the game, there's going to be no cards left in the square deck. The only place that players can play cards or effects or effect with their cards used as actions in that final round are the great buildings. And after that phase, the great buildings are resolved, and then you figure out who won.
To determine the winner in Dawn, you first figure out everyone's loyalty. Everyone reveals the cards collected in their storehouse, and anyone with less than 6 treasures is an ally. The allies need to have collected 30 points per player in order to declare a victory for their team. If they haven't reached this total, the scoundrel with the most treasure wins.
So during all of this, there's talking going on. This is a social game. Players are encouraged to talk, work together, accuse each other, and more. There's no limited communication rules here. In every game we played, there's been a ton of open discussion. When you reveal that first negative card of the game, there's always speculation on who played what and who put it there and who's a scoundrel and who switched sides. This is a game filled with accusations and rebukes and everything you expect from a social deduction game, except this time you get to pick which side you're on.
And what, in fact, may be most fascinating is how often you may choose to shift your allegiances throughout the game.
Yeah, that's actually what I found most fascinating about this game is you can start out and you're like, well, I've definitely decided, just randomly because it's what I feel like doing or based on my first hand that I'm going to be a scoundrel. And you're like, actually, no, wait a second. Maybe I'm not. Maybe that's not where I'm going with this. And you can just swap back and forth. And then you're bluffing continuously, too. And it's interesting. It's a good variation on a social deduction game.
Yeah, it's neat because, no matter how much gold you squirrel away as a scoundrel, if you're saying every round you put a 3 treasure under there, you can't win unless the allies fail. The allies have to fail. So it can feel like everyone is sabotaging everyone else. And you're like, everyone's doing scoundrel. I haven't seen a 3 treasure. Everyone must be in a scoundrel. It's really easy to win if you're the only ally. You only need 30 points. You can get that off 2 or 3 buildings at the most. Plus 3 of the 4 great buildings give you at least 30 points. So it's like, man, well, if everyone else is going to be a scoundrel, all I need is 30 points to win. And then the other thing you'll know is while you're playing is it's all open information. How many points are needed for the allies to win, and you can see which buildings they built and you can see what their point total is. You don't know the great buildings until the end, but you can kind of see which way things are going. And it's often very tempting to move over to what you think is the assured win. But then if everyone does that and everyone suddenly switches to allies, all of a sudden you won't actually get enough points. So the opposite, where the allies are screwed, we're all going to switch to scoundrels. Well, you do that, and the one person who didn't switch ends up winning because you gave them all the points in the game because you thought everyone switched. And that's what I love about Dawn.
I feel like regardless of what the other people at the table are doing as far as bluffing goes, the game itself is bluffing me. Because I think I'm going to go for that assured win, but is it? Is it really an assured win?
So one possible negative here is, depending on how you play, you may get forced to stay in a role by not being able to adjust your treasures as you had been hoping to as you reach that end game. So while you have a general ability to choose your role by being above or below that 6 gold, because there are mechanical aspects to it, you may not be able to make the specific changes to your storeroom that you had hoped to when you want or need to.
But then I think that's interesting because that's part of what you have to adapt to with your gameplay, right? You might be like, well, that's not what I wanted to do, but let's hurry up and hope that we're all going in the direction I want it to go now because...
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of players, especially on their first time playing the game, decide they want to do scoundrel and they put all their treasure in there and they're like, well, it's fine because the last round I'm going to get a new hand of 9 cards and I'll swap them all out to negative treasure. And then you get a mitt full of treasure cards and you're like, I can't actually swap out. Now I'm forced to be. Or the opposite, where you're like, I'm going to make sure I can switch to an ally at the end. Well, if your whole hand's filled with a bunch of treasure cards that are higher than the ones in your storeroom, you're stuck. Though I still think like proper play is to make sure you have that balance and your storeroom's adjustable till the last moment, unless you really want to go all in. And to me, that's just part of the game. To me, that's a highlight on it. But that is why we said you basically get to choose your role in this game, because sometimes you are forced. And the same goes with the card play. Sometimes you're forced to play a card because it's the only thing you have left and you got to play it somewhere. And no matter which side you're on, you're helping your opponent. So that is also part of the game, which you've seen in other games that use these kind of card-based hidden trader things.
Yeah, but then you just lean into it and use it as an excuse to bluff.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure there's longtime fans saying you're going, but Mo, you don't like social deduction games. Well, this is another exception to the rule, I guess. Because what makes Dawn work for me is the fact you don't have an assigned role. You're not forced to be the bad guy, and you don't have to lie or bluff at all to play the game. You can, but it's totally optional. You could play Dawn as a 100% cooperative game, and it actually works. I've been tempted to the first round to teach the game, have everyone you're all allies. You're trying to build the village together. And trust me, it's not easy. You can lose that way. But I got to say, what makes it fun, though, is that potential trader, the fact there's one there, and then that temptation to win on your own, right? Like sitting there going, yeah, okay, we're probably going to win as villagers, but, if I just sabotage this, no one's going to expect it. I've been helping all along, and I could be the only winner. Like, I don't think I would actually enjoy this game at all if it was like most social deduction and hidden trader games where you're assigned a random role at turn one and have to stick with it. It's that ability to shift and adapt and predict what your opponents are doing that makes me really enjoy this game.
So personally, for me, this isn't an exception. I think this would make an awesome cooperative game. It's challenging, requires planning and cooperation, and a hint of luck as well as forethought. To me, the trader aspect muddies that fun cooperative game a lot and detracts from the fun. As it's designed, though, however, I think simply removing the trader aspect would probably make it a bit too easy as a co-op.
Yeah.
So just house ruling out the trader may not be successful. It's not easy, but compared to other co-op games, which we've talked about how that, that challenge really has to be there, It would be a little on the easier side, I think.
So I'll argue a little more favorably than Sean. I am not absolutely in love with this game, but I do like that it is unique. It's doing something unique. And I like that you get to pick your role and adapt to it throughout the game. It's still a hidden social deduction game, co-op aspects, whatever. Everything that I don't like there is still there, but it does have some unique stuff going on that I want to give them kudos for.
So some of my favorite moments in Dawn include the last round where I was careful enough to actually have enough treasure in my storehouse that I can go either way, no matter what my hand comes to. And then that moment where I'm like, which way do I go? I'm looking around at everyone else who's also making the same decision and trying to figure out which way will win me the game, either part of the team or against it. Every time that first betrayal moment happens, it's been a great experience, whether that's suddenly you flip over a card. There's a stack of 6 cards on this threat and you need 3 reds and you flip them over and they're all green. And you're like, what the heck? Everyone who played cards there is trying to screw us. And or even more so the times when it's mixed and people start going, hey, I played green cards. I told you, no, I played red. That's always a good moment. That first betrayal, because like you start off in general, everyone being an ally and trying. Because technically, you can't even make yourself a scoundrel until round 3, and that's only if you put multiple 3s in your storeroom, right? Like the odds of being able to do that. So everyone kind of starts off as an ally, and there's always that betrayal moment that often doesn't happen the first round. You get that, I thought we were all friends. I gotta say, winning as the allies is great if there's a bunch of you. And you're like, man, we need a ridiculous number of points to win this. We need 1,800 or whatever. And like, you're looking at what's built and then you manage to do it because of the great buildings at the end. That always feels really good. And then especially the one player who switched to Scoundrel the last round because they're like, there's no way you'll make it. And you do it. I do like that. And I got to say, I also, and I don't know why, I think it's the same reason that whenever I play a JRPG, I can't be evil. I play a BioWare game and you can go light or dark side. I just can't do it. I need to help the farmer and I need to kill the rats. I always tend to have a personal goal of not letting any threats get through the village. I could be a scoundrel. I'm hoarding money, but no, we're not going to let those raiders raid our village. Heck no. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there is something there about the theming that makes you feel like you're just supposed to defend against the raiders no matter what. Like your instinct is like, oh yeah, I gotta fix that.
Overall, Dawn's a game I decided to take a chance on. Enough people were talking about it. The publisher was trying to highlight how unique it is and different in the world of social deduction, hidden trader games. And I normally don't like these kind of games, but I gotta say, it sounded kind of neat with this whole you pick your role thing. Now, I didn't really get how smart it was until my first play, and I was actually at the cookie bar, and I've been hooked. Like, I really strongly recommend this game for fans of hidden role games. It's a unique take on that hidden role thing and hidden traders. I also recommend people who don't usually like these games try this. Like, come out to one of our events if you're local, and I'll show it to you because it's quite fascinating and honestly quite fun, especially like, even if you're like you're like, I'm going to be an ally, that temptation's always there. Or I'm going to be the scoundrel. And you're like, oh no, I got to help these people out. That said, if you are hardcore against betrayal and negative player interactions, Dawn's not going to be worth picking up just to play like cooperatively. There are good cooperative games out there. I would recommend one of those over trying to fix this one to make it cooperative.
All right, that's it. The review is done. It's time to reveal if any of us were scoundrels. To me, it feels like everyone worked together, and I suspect we're all still allies. I didn't notice any sabotage, did you?
So here we have another publisher convincing me I don't actually dislike social deduction games. Just some social deduction games. For another example of this, check out a review of Psychobabble, because that was another one that completely shocked me, and I had to be forced to take it away from a convention to even try it, and I have been totally sold.
What about you? What's a game you ended up really enjoying that is something you didn't expect to like at all? Let us know in the comments, reply on social media, or start a conversation over on our Discord.
Don't be a scoundrel and help us to continue to build something great by supporting our show at patreon.com/Tabletop Bellhop. A witch hunter has been spotted in the area, and local towns are collaborating to protect their friendly local witches in Curses and Covens.
This one versus many deduction game comes from 1,000 Rats. It was kickstarted by then and is now being published by Good Games Publishing, who we do have to thank for hooking us up with a review copy. And when Curses and Covens, 3 to 5 friendly town players face off against a single witch hunter, with games taking 15 to 30 minutes, getting quicker once everyone's got all the mechanics and everything down. Now, the witch hunter wins this game if they can capture 5 witches, whereas the townsfolk win if they can form a coven of 3 matching witches of the same suit in the same town or manage to curse the hunter 2 times. All of this is happening through a lot of passing of cards and limited communication rules.
One of the most impressive things about Curses and Covens is the cards. They're gorgeous. These are tarot-sized cards that feature fantastic and very diverse artwork with metallic highlighting. You also get a small felt witch hat, some spell tiles, a very clear rulebook, and some incredibly useful reference cards, all of which come in a nice small portable box. We have nothing negative to say about the components.
Setup in Curses and Covens is very quick. Pick a player to be the witch hunter and give them the appropriate reference card and the card deck. They shuffle it, draw 1 card, look at it, place it down on the table, hidden in the woods. Place 3 spell tiles out on the table, light side up, then deal each town player 3 cards and pass them each a town reference card.
So each round in Curses and Covens starts with the census. This is where the town players reveal their hands face up on the table so everyone can see what everyone has, including the witch hunter. Now, if a player has no cards at this point, they do take one and reveal it from the deck. Now, if any player has 3 witches from the same suit, which can include the wild card witch that counts as all 3, the town players win. Great job. Assuming they haven't won, the town players now discuss their plans for the future phases. The problem is they're discussing this in earsight of the witch hunter, who gets to listen in.
In earsight. Sorry, that's a funny phrase. During the census, If the town players have a pair of matching witches, they can cast one of those face-up spells. These give the townfolk an advantage for future phases. Once a spell's been used, at the end of the round, you flip the tile over to its other side to reveal a new spell. The final thing the town players do is determine which of them is going to be the start player for the rest of the round. And then once that's decided, players all pick up their hands.
Next, we have the arrival phase, where the hunter hands out new cards. They draw and look at the card one at a time and hand them out to town players, starting with the start player. There's no talking permitted during this phase. If the witch hunter has a curse card in front of them, they increase their vigilance and get to choose who to hand each drawn card to instead of having to go in order.
Now, you also can't talk during the travel phase, which is next. In turn order, each witch chooses to do, each town player chooses to do one of the following. They can pass a card face down to another town player. They can ask another town player to give them a face down card, or they can swap a card in their hand with the card that is placed in the wilderness.
Once all of that card passing is done, the witch hunter starts hunting. The hunter gets to pick 2 cards from town players to look at one at a time. When they reveal a townfolk, they give that card back to a different player. However, if the card is a witch, they place the witch in front of themselves, and that town player that they pulled the witch from now has to discard all of the remaining cards to the bottom of the deck. And if that is the 5th witch that the witch hunter has caught, they're going to win the game. However, there's another type of card, so if they reveal a ritual, that goes in front of them. If the witch hunter ever has 2 rituals cast on them, they lose the game and the town players win. And if the witch hunter turns over the fake witch, they keep that card, but all the other witches they've caught so far are going to escape to the bottom of the deck, though the fake witch now counts as one of the 5 witches that they have to win.
After the hunt, if no one has won, you move on to another round. Town players reveal their hands, hold a census what to do next. New cards are handed out during the arrival, players swap cards during the travel phase, and another hunt is held until one of the 2 teams wins.
So what I love most about Curses and Covens is that the game, while being a social deduction game, is more about the deduction side of things, memory, and playing the odds rather than bluffing and lying. While those aspects are still here, and the amount of it's going to depend on which group you're playing with and how well people know each other and how much they enjoy those style of games, the limited communication rules really limit direct obfuscation. Like, being the witch hunter is much more about paying attention, trying to figure out what cards got passed where, and trying to figure out the town's players' plans.
What I love here is the theming. I love that it bucks some trends. The witches are not the bad guys. You have town folks that are trying to hide and protect the witches. It's super diverse. It's got cool art. Like, I love all of that theming.
Yeah, it's really in its core a deduction, not social deduction game, where you're just trying to figure out which cards are where. And as the witch hunter, you're trying to grab the right cards, because if you grab the wrong cards, you're in trouble. But also, the witches have to sort of guide you in some ways to grab the right cards, because if you do grab a witch, every other witch in that hand goes down to the bottom of the deck so that you can't grab them again.
It's like an elaborate round of Go Fish.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, a little bit. And what Sean just mentioned there, the fact that when a witch is caught, that player discards their entire hand, that one's pretty important. We actually missed that the first couple of games and thought we had broken the game. This rule exists to make sure the town players don't just give all of their cards to one player and play the odds, because there's no chance they're probably going to draw it. So just don't mess that up. You can still hand all your cards to one player, but it's going to be pretty hard to form a coven if all those cards just keep getting buried to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, and as usual, the game is better when you play it by the actual rules. Who knew? Because those first couple games where we screwed that up weren't as fun.
Yep.
Yeah, there was some expectations that the spells would allow you to do certain things. So spells were cast and cards were moved, and the witch hunter seemed to be stumped until you remembered, no, you've just lost all your cards because I pulled a witch.
Now, another thing we found with this game, when you first try it, when you're sitting down for the first game, it really feels like the witch hunter has too much of an advantage. All I can say is just play more, like give it a couple more rounds. They're short. It's like 15-minute game, right? there's a chance that the witch hunter is probably going to win at the beginning, but it's usually because the townsfolk are being too obvious. It takes a bit to learn how to be a little more subtle, especially with your hints and what you're saying during the round to plan ahead, and smart ways to move your cards around, and even trying to figure out how to gather your witches all to one player. And that's also something that's going to be group dependent. And in a way, the game kind of reminds me of Hanabi that way, where each individual group is going to kind of come up with their own language to try to communicate with each other, which is something I think is a neat aspect of emergent gameplay from this game.
It's interesting, but like Hanabi, I think it's where the game can break down. If you have all said, well, we're just going to say X when we mean Y and do this, and you have that pre-planning, it sort of breaks the limited communication rules of the game. So if you play it over and over with the same group, that is a place where it can break down.
Although
swap out the witch hunter.
At the same time, as long as you're cycling the witch hunter, that doesn't break, because the witch hunter will know of. Has to sort of know what your strange things are. Realistically, every time you play this game, the witch hunter should just be a new person, and that really does kind of stop that particular breakdown from happening.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, like, again, it's a short game, right? Like 15 minutes, once you know it, is a pretty good time. Sometimes it goes longer, sometimes it's shorter. So in most cases, what we usually do is everyone plays the witch hunter once, right? And it goes around the table. So everyone gets to play that role and get to try each different thing. Now, the other thing I want to call out, Deanna already mentioned it, but man, this game looks good, like really good. The card art is striking. The card design is excellent. This is a game where you can clearly see everything you need to see. How many times recently in our reviews have we complained the iconography is too small, the card text is too small, I can't see it? This is a game where clearly, like, I think someone could almost be in another room and I could tell which cards they had on the table. It's that clear. It's that easy to see based on color. The witches are very color coded, but they also look distinct. The iconography, the villagers look like villagers, and props for including pets and horses along with the villagers. I thought that was a nice touch. This is one of those games where I have no complaint about the art style or iconography. It just works.
That's true. Even with my crummy eyes, I can easily play this game. And it's a good call out, because I remember to say when I struggle with the game, I don't think to say, hey, I could actually play this one easily.
So some moments I enjoy in Curses and Covens, of course, being the witch hunter and finding that fifth witch. You can't deny it. Pulling that fifth witch just feels good. Especially if the card you're grabbing, it's a witch and you're right. And one of the ones I thought someone who knew the witch and got to have this feeling. I clearly remember a fun moment when we realized Gwendolyn, our oldest daughter, was paying way more attention than we expected. Like, she was like watching the cards. She wasn't just like watching who passed to who, but she was like, when she handed out cards, she was paying attention to where people were putting those cards in her hands. And then when they were passing cards, she was looking at which card got passed and where that person put it, and all of that going on. And like, we even had some spells up where we were passing twice, thinking to mess her up, but she just rocked it, right? So, of course, once we figured this out, talking about emergent gameplay going to happen with different groups, we now shuffle our hands often, constantly moving our cards around, and we'll often shuffle them under the table before passing a card, and now obfuscate the cards a lot more, because it's definitely a trick to playing the witch hunter there that Gwen figured out that just went to a level above. But it was awesome when it happened. Like, that was just awesome. And now we have the fix. We got to make sure you mix up your hand.
It amused me because I caught on because I was watching her eyes. I was like watching her eyes clearly going like this, and I was like, oh, wait, I know why she keeps winning. Gosh darn it.
Overall, Curses and Covens was just a bigger hit than I thought it would be. Like, I agreed to check this game out thinking this was going to be good for our local public play nights, right? This is where like Psychobabble and Chameleon have been huge hits. They get played almost every time we bring them out. I figured this would be in that same genre and probably attract the same group of players. I wasn't expecting to enjoy the game as much myself. Like, there are some really clever things going on. This isn't just another social deduction game.
As Sean already said, I feel that this is almost more of a deduction game than a social deduction game. Mm-hmm. You are trying to bluff and hide the location of the witches, but you're not bluffing your roles like you do in a social deduction game.
That's true. There are no hidden roles. There's no role to play here. It's definitely a team game. It's the witch hunter versus the towns.
Right. Everyone knows who the witch hunter is. There's no surprise there.
Now, if you do love social deduction games or deduction games, this is a great one to add to your collection. Fans of games like Coop and The Resistance in particular, I think are going to dig this one, and it's card-based play. Fans of games like Love Letter will also probably enjoy this, and I think this game could be a great gift for anyone who happens to be into tarot and witchcraft, as, unlike in many games, the town folks are trying to protect the friendly witches. If you collect games with beautiful artwork, you may also want to pick this game up.
Definitely. It's gorgeous. And yeah, I think it's more in line with feeling like Love Letter, that more deductive.
There is definitely a strong memory element too. What did I pass to who and who got what and what's in the forest? So yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Now, what I got to say is if you usually avoid these kind of games like I do, check out Curses and Covens. Give it a shot. This isn't social deduction. This isn't it's not werewolf. It's not a one versus many, or sorry, it's a one versus many game about collaboration, memory, and deduction way more than rooting out the traitor, lying, and betraying people. Actually, I don't think there's any betrayal in this game at all, which is another reason I think it sticks out to me as quite enjoyable.
Well, there you have it. Another deduction game that we actually like. That's enough now that it's going to be hard to keep saying we don't enjoy them. If anything, games like Curses and Covens, Dawn, and Psychobabble should be driving us to check out more games in this genre, figuring out what else we might be missing out on.
So I'm curious, what are your favorite hidden traitor, deduction, or social deduction games? What games in these genres do you think are much more than just bluffing and lying to your friends? Tell us all about it in the comments, on our Discord, or over on social media.
Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons, all of whom are awesome. We greatly appreciate you sticking around, even when we weren't producing as much content as we'd like to be, and now that we're getting back into it. First up, a big welcome and a thank you to Jeff Farbman, the latest Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patron.
Hello, Jeff. Thanks for becoming a patron.
Welcome, Jeff. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Ron F., thank you.
Thanks, Papa Swick.
Brian Van Beek, thank you, Brian.
William Fisher, thank you.
Your first stop to finding us all across the web should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can also find us as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, on all the socials, and on your podcatcher of choice as the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
We love answering your gaming and game night questions online, through email, and of course here on the podcast. You can send questions to questions@tabletopbellhop.com through email. Click on Ask the Bellhop on our webpage, or as Sean just said, you can find us on social media as Tabletop Bellhop. Send a DM, send a reply, tag us, whatever you want to do. We love answering your questions. We are here to help you.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. And it would be awesome if you would share this episode with other gamers that you think might dig it.
That's all for us tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And
game on.